The Tonex Pedal from IK Multimedia.
On the bench, we have the Tonex Pedal. It's amp modeler as well as you can put amp captures. Into that, we've got the Jackson Dinky Professional that goes into Studio 192, and we're recording this in OBS. All right, this is episode 1. We are going to take a look at this pedal from my viewpoint. That's all I can give you is my viewpoint. There is a lot of things this pedal does, and a lot of things you can do with this pedal. I'm going to start off episode 1 and tell you, we'll go over the knobs, and I'll let you know what I know about it and what I don't know about it. And then I'm going to tell you why I switched over to this from amps and from other amp modelers that I was using. And we'll go into that. Let me bring up a shot of the pedal here. It has 8 buttons or 8 knobs. 2 or 3 of those are actually buttons as well. And it has 3 foot switches. Top left, it's got the knob is model. You turn that, it goes through the models apparently. I think you have to be in a, you have to first press hold to get to the setup, and then you can go through and select, I think it's under amp, you select the model of the amp you want to use for modeling. The, like I said, it's also a button, so if you press and hold that, it brings up the setup. Setup is a menu of things like global settings. You can scroll in the amp, you can scroll and pick the amp out. To the right, we have, it is a knob, it's a preset. You can scroll through all the presets on the pedal by turning the knob at the top right. It also is a back button. In other words, you press it, and if you're editing something, it will back you back to the last page, take you out of that. On the bottom, we have parameter. That knob allows you to select parameters when you pull up things to edit. If you press and hold that, it takes you to the alternate options on the next 4 knobs. The next 4 knobs, gain, bass, mid, and treble. Those are like basic controls you would see on an amp. You know, you got a 3-band EQ, and you've got your gain, and then you've got your volume. Volume is the overall volume of the pedal. I don't think it changes. I think where it is set, it stays for no matter what preset you have in there. I think it stays, or it is at the setting you have it dialed to. The gain, however, and the bass, mid, and treble, those settings on, let's say you pull up a preset. That preset may have the gain at 25%, and you know, and let's say it's like the picture, but you look at it and you see it at 50%. Well, the knob doesn't show you where your preset is set to. It just shows you where it will be set if you turn that knob. So in other words, if I am on standard setting, and not the alternate, but I'm on the adjusting the gain, if I turn that knob, then it doesn't matter where the value of that was set for my preset, it will jump to the value of where that little white marker is. I'm not a fan of knobs like that. I like the, I think Behringer has a lot of their equipment has knobs that have little lights on top, and that light, if you change preset on something they have, then that light would go around the knob till it got to the value that preset was set at. I don't know why Tonex didn't do that. I guess it's cheaper not to do that. I've had some Behringer stuff in the past, older stuff, and I've still got some Behringer stuff, and those knobs still work to this day. So I don't know why they don't use that in more stuff. Anyhow, so same thing on bass. If you've got a preset and the bass is at 50%, and when you turn the knob or start to turn the knob happens to be over at let's say 75%, then it will jump to 75, and you have to dial it back down. It's not going to tell you where the bass or the in the mid and the treble. It's not going to tell you where they're set when you start. So you're going to have to know that if you adjust it. You'll have to know, well, it was at 50 before. Well, there's no way to tell that. Software's a lot better because on that it'll show you right where the setting was. All right, the alternate functions of the 4 middle knobs. You press and hold the perimeter button down, or the knob, push it down like a button, hold it, and it brings up the reverb, compressor, noise gate, and presence controls. And you can control each of those. Like I said, reverb, if you've got a patch or a preset and there's no reverb at all in it, and the knob is at 50% when you touch it, it's going to jump straight to 50% wherever that knob's set. So it's just like before. It's not going to show you where it's set when you start. You move it, it'll show you where it's set after you've moved it. All right, the 3 foot switches. You have A, B, and C. Each bank is, I'm not sure how many banks you have, but I'll look that up and we'll go over it on the next video, include it there. But you've got 3 blocks for each bank. So if you're on bank 1A, which is what we're seeing on our image, then that's preset, we'll just say 1A. So there'd be a preset 1A, preset 1B, preset 1C, and then you'd go to the next bank and it'd be preset 2A, 2B, and 2C. This is handy in that if you just use this pedal alone, you can, let's say you've got your first song has three variations in the preset. You can have all 3 of those presets in there and jump from A to B to C during the song as needed. I'll use a MIDI controller because you're going to get you can control just about everything with the MIDI controller. Now, the A button and the B button, if you press those at the same time, that's going to take the bank down. So if you're on bank 5 and you hit those 2, it's going to take you down to bank 4. If you're on bank 5 and you hit the B and C button at the same time, it's going to take you up to bank 6. Okay, now what this doesn't tell you is if you press and hold down one of the banks, and I find that C doesn't work unless it's already lit. But like the foot switch A, it's lit on the picture. If you press that and hold it, it's going to bring up the tuner. And the tuner is without sound. You can go into the settings and have it to where the sound stays on with tuner. But typically you probably wouldn't want the sound on while you're tuning. Let's take a quick look at the back. It has one input for guitar on the far left there. You will have to and we will go over this in a future video, but you'll have to go to global settings and adjust the input volume, because different guitars have different pickups. Now, if you get hot pickups, you can dial the volume back and you'll be fine. But most of mine, I have to go in and set it a little lower. And it's real. We'll cover that in a future video. The next plugs are, you got the output, left output and right output. Those are TRS balanced outputs. So you can run that out into with the TRS plug. You can come out of there into a XLR connection and run it into the board that way. If you're going mono, use the left. If you're going stereo, use the right. If you've just got an amp, you don't have any effects, delays, or anything in there with it. You know, mono's probably what you're going to do, and then anything after that would add stereo in if needed. Headphones, stereo headphones. I do not know if there's a volume control for that. I do not use that. MIDI in, MIDI out. I'm guessing MIDI through will go through the out. That's where you plug up your MIDI controller. They are different type MIDI controllers. Some of them are wireless. I think this one works with the wireless one. I've got one that's got a MIDI cable. So the external control, if you've got an expression pedal, you can plug that in there and control various aspects. Well, one, you can control volume. Two, if you got a wah effect in there, you could control that. You can control the delay, you know, the speed of the delay, the duration of the delay. You can control the reverb. You can have an increased reverb or decreased reverb. So you got one extension control that you can plug in. I think it's a TRS jack. So then you have the USB plug. This is, I think that's USB B. I think that's what they call that. But it's the square plug with the two rounded corners on the top. And I think it's 2.0, which is plenty fast enough to use this to send your guitar to the DAW or something and record it. I don't use it that way. I usually run my outputs into my audio input audio device, you know, PreSonus, or if there's a mixer or board or front of house, I'll run it out to that. The power's 9-volt DC, so if you put this on a pedal board, you can power it with one of your power box. You know, if you get a 9-volt box that puts out 9-volt DC, then you can run it into here. It's negative center, so it should match up with most pedals today. Let's go back to the front of it. We'll talk a little bit about why I use this pedal. The biggest problem I had in my past with guitar, and I think they have they call them gear junkies now, or use other words that I won't use, but the more gear you have, the less time you play guitar. They're a distraction. If you have, and I had a head rush, or I still have a head rush, or one of the original pedal boards head rush, and it had so many options that you could waste an entire week trying to get the sound you want. And the same is true with the Line 6. If you've got a Line 6 model or anything like that, it just totally takes up your time because there's just too many variations, and you're just going to sit here all day and go through those. I think the Axe Effects is it's probably one of the best sounding modelers, and it's very expensive. I mean, it's expensive, and the pros use it. But I'll bet you that the guitar techs for those pros are the ones that set it up, and they have, they're setting up for a certain sound. Once they get that sound, they're not tinkering anymore. But you put that in the hands of a guitar player, and they sit there and start moving knobs on the computer. There's just so many options that you can change that you tinker and tinker and tinker, and you never get around to playing your guitar. If you're a new guitarist, enjoy looking at this stuff, but don't get caught up in it because, first of all, you can spend a whole lot of money, and I'm guilty of that. I mean, I have bought things that I have used once or twice, and they're sitting on a shelf. Now, I review pedals and stuff now, but when I got those things, I didn't necessarily review pedals. I thought I had to have that. I got it. I tinkered with it. So it did waste some of my time, and it just wasn't what I thought it was. That's one of the reasons I don't like the reviews that some guitarist comes on here, and they're really talented. Don't get me wrong. And they put this song together for you, but that song is produced. They have run that through a DAW. They've edited it, made it sound, great. Sounds great. But you don't actually hear what you're going to get. When you get one of these pedals, you're not going to understand because you're going to turn it on, play through it, and you're going to say, doesn't sound anything like the guy on the video. Well, one, they're a good, pretty good player. But aside from that, they've done everything they can to make it sound great, even after recording it. So the Tonex to me was, because I have a lot of amps and a lot of things like that, but the Tonex for me was with this box, because I don't know a lot about how to control settings with it. But with this box, I can basically turn it on, select the amp sound I want. Now, I do know how to hit the Control Alt, and I can back off reverb, the compressor, adjust that. I can do a lot of things if they're in the patch or in the preset. But the whole point is that I'm not sitting there. I've not got 500 things I can tinker with. I've got the sound. I start practicing or rehearsal, but I don't waste time sitting there fudging with the sound. I'm not perfect in any way, but I am a perfectionist, and that is a curse, let me tell you, because you're never satisfied. So I could waste weeks with something like the Axe Effects. The Tonex now, it does have another box you can buy that you can actually use it to capture sounds from amps. And I won't buy one. That's the last thing I want to do, start capturing my amps. There are just so many amp or captures available that sound great, sound better than the amps I've got. why am I going to spend time learning how to capture an amp, set it up? It's going to take hours. I mean, you think about it. And then to get that capture. If, if you're professional and you've got a guitar tech, someone takes care of your equipment, you can have them do that if you want your amp sounds. Or if you have an amp that you can't, you can find it. Trust me, you can find the different amps online. Somebody's going to sell them. The prices on these things on the patches aren't that much. So I did buy some patches for the Tonex, for the pedal. And I will share with you in the later video from whom I bought those patches. And they are on YouTube. And the sounds are going to be a little, we'll just say a little over the top. The reverb is going to be high on them. Especially the 80s pack. I think he has an 80s pack or something. A lot of reverb, but you can just dial that back. It's really easy to dial back, so you don't have to spend hours tinkering with the buttons. The other aspect of the Tonex, it's small. Let's say that you are gigging or playing on tour. This will hold enough presets or patches to cover, an entire set, a 3-hour set. It's a long set, but you can get enough in there to cover that. The foot switches are okay, but like I said, I would get a MIDI controller. They've got them that have like eight foot switches on it, and they're small too. So, and some of them are wireless, but you can capture, or you can find the amps similar to your amp from someone, and you can add the effects. You can put effects pedals in front of this, and you can put them after. But now, if you're on tour or playing somewhere, unless if the front of house can't add reverb in, then you might want a reverb pedal at the end, or just use the reverb on here. You can add it in. But delays and stuff like that, you can put those pedals after this, going to front of house. There is not a loop on this. You don't need a loop because all your reverbs and delays and stuff go after the preamp. This is a preamp, basically. This is not a power amp. So if you put them after this and then run that to front of house, they'll run everything through and it'll sound just fine. But you can put compression pedals and overdrives, distortion, wah pedal, stuff like that in front. If you don't want to carry all that around, you didn't listen to me on wasting time capturing amps, then you can get the other device that goes with this. Capture your amp with the pedal in, and then you won't need the pedal. You just select that preset where it's in the loop when you're playing, and then you can have one captured again without it, and then you can switch between the two to basically turn the pedal off and on. Final thing I'm going to go over here on this episode is cost. This is a fraction of what a good amp costs, and it sounds as good as a good amp. I don't think there's anyone that can, they'll say they can, but I don't think there's anyone that if you've got a good capture on here that could tell you if it's this pedal or the amp. But I'll tell you this, what you do know with this is if you've captured your amp, it's always going to sound like your amp did when you captured it, or when the person that you got the patch from captured it. All right, the next video on this, we'll get into more of the software. All right, till the next video.